Welcome to Better, the podcast about doing better, being better, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Better. Your host, Jay. Do better, be better, make the world a better place. All right, so a couple housekeeping items before I get to my guest, because I do not want to forget how to pronounce his name. I'm terrible with names, as you guys know. And so a couple housekeeping items. The Last First Date, my book, loosely based on how I met my girlfriend. That's out on Amazon. Go grab that. And you're going to notice a little bit of a different flow to the podcast coming here in the next few weeks. So for a couple of months, we're going to be doing strictly better moment episodes. So that's my solo episodes where I talk about things that happen in my life. And then I bring in celebrities such as Cameron Matheson and Lupe Fiasco and just a whole bunch of celebrities to talk about how they've done better or they are now better people, and or how they made the world a better place. There's a couple of those too. You know, those are the rare ones, but they're in there. So we're doing that, and then it'll be a bit of a break. The reason why we're going to have the break, probably I'd say end of May, early June, is I'm doing my Halloween event again this year, and we've got this massive venue, and I'm going to need to dedicate my time 100% to that, because it is absolutely a mission of mine. A way I do better is by fearing people to the point where they pee their pants and realizing how good they have it in the regular day. So fear is back. I'm very excited about it. And that is why we're going to be taking a break. Now, all that out of the way, I have an episode about a topic that I generally stay away from. And I'll tell you why. It's mostly because I was born in Canada. I'm a white dude. And I really don't have the ability or even the desire to discuss this without discussing this subject with someone who is been a part of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about immigration, migration, coming to Canada, becoming a part of the Canadian society, and how culture plays in and all that. And I found my guest on TikTok, and he put out a video. It went viral, and it was all about, I think, a little tongue-in-cheek in the title, but it was basically about why there is a conflict between citizens of Canada that are part of, the regular Canadian society, and then people that come into Canada, and what that struggle looks like. Because anything in life, if you're trying to merge two different ideas, two different topics, two different types of people, everybody's going to have some sort of differences, right? And those differences don't necessarily need to be a bad thing, but sometimes there can be a little bit of conflict, right? And we're seeing it in the world today. Immigration is a huge topic these days. A lot of the topic and conversation around it, I don't really like. I don't think it's in the right direction. However, this is going to be a topic that goes in that right direction. So I'm going to bring in my guest now, Prateek. Oh no, I'm going to screw up that last name, buddy. What's the last name again?
Uniyal.
Uniyal. Okay. Prateek Uniyal. There we go. And look at this. For some reason, my screen went to a different orientation than what I wanted. That's weird. Wonder what that happened. Okay. Well, I'm just going to be a little off to the side. Here, I'll do this for you guys. There we go. That's not bad. You're in the center. You're fine. My screen just went weird. Okay, so Prateek, how long have you been in Canada?
Jay, I would say going forward, March 21 will put me at 7 years in this country.
It's 7 years.
7 years, yes. So I'm close to a decade, which is kind of lovely for me, because I came in when I was an angry young man at 24, and I'm sitting literally at 31 right now. I had like amazing years for myself, and seen the amount of people that shared the same lifestyle that I had, or went through the same process that we went through. And it was like beautiful and ugly at the same time. But at the end of the day, what I've learned is it's all experiences. It's all some great lessons that you take away, and
Mhm.
those are the ones that I keep to myself. And always had the positive mindset, and still have. Like it hasn't slept out of it. And it's lovely. It's great. So 7 years, still rolling in, still coming out strong, and still young by heart.
Okay, so 7 years here, and you came from
I'm from India.
what?
It's a What parts of India? I would say like a lot of people just know Delhi because that's the national capital of the country itself. But
Yeah.
I come out from a very small town in India. It's uh one of the towns called Dehradun. I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't even know about it, but my city is the yoga capital of the world. So the yoga was implemented over there,
Oh,
and so lot of the times Beatles came to to my city itself when they were going through a rough patch and when they went back from there, so we have a Beatles cave over there, and few other celebrities that came forward to learn the process, learn the Hinduism itself. So it's called Dehradun. It's in the state, which is basically the province over here in Canada. We call it state back home. It's called Uttarakhand. So it's a lot to take for, but very small town, mostly precisely about like another 100,000 people in the whole city itself. That's where I belong from.
from the place that invented yoga.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
It's actually amazing. When I tell people about it, they do not know the name exactly of the city that I'm born and brought up in, but when I tell them about the yoga, they actually go forward and research it. So, and you will see, this is for all the audience around, that's built there. Just like Google it, yoga capital city in the world, and it will show Dehradun, and then some small cities in and around to it. So that's where I'm from, and proud to be from there.
Well, I did yoga this morning, so your home has contributed to so many people.
Thank you so much. And that's a great way to start your day itself, right? Like I go
Oh
out
yeah.
to work itself. Like the gyms are always crowded at 6 a.m. So I prefer going at 3:30 a.m. so that I can get my workout in. And yeah, what's the best feeling? Grabbing or getting that sweat out and having your first breakfast, the first coffee of the morning, and yeah, starting your day. So it's eventually there.
Right. That's awesome. So you're in Toronto now?
I'm in Toronto at the
Okay.
moment. Yes.
Right in Toronto or like Mississauga or
Right in Toronto, right
right
in
in
downtown
Toronto?
Toronto. Yes.
I guess you like that active lifestyle, that
Oh,
busy.
it is so lovely. Because I miss this when I was home, when I was in India, because again, as I said, I come from a very small town. So we didn't had a lot of excitement when I was growing up. I'm also kind of an old soul. So when I saw the structure, the lifestyle of the city life, the city never sleeps. That's what they say, right? So Toronto, one of a kind itself. Love it. Was just moving spots now because I know I used to live in a condo. But the fire alarm and other stuff was happening, so I moved to a house now, which is comparatively very amazing and so soothing. So have a spot for myself and everything. So it's lovely. Love Toronto. Never had anything the six. It's beautiful. Drake's from here. So it's eventually
I
everything amazing.
love that you threw that in. Drake's from here. That's funny. Okay, so you came to did you come for studies? Is that why you came to
I did.
Canada?
Yes, I came for my studies itself. I came in 2018. I came for my 2 years post-graduation diploma courses. Obviously, couldn't get through a university itself because our bachelor's is comparatively different to what North American standards are. Over here, you need a 4 years of bachelor's, and back home, we only used to have 3 years of bachelor's. Only one degree does a 4 years, which is in engineering. So I was not from there. I got an admission in one of the great colleges, which is Humber College, which is on Lakeshore, Etobicoke. Uh, Loved the concept, came out for 2 years study, got a 3 years of visa, work visa, in which, I just started, networking and everything. And now I'm here, just waiting on my permanent residency card to come forward, already applied for my permanent residency. And yeah, just taking it slowly now. That's everything.
that PR program is a nightmare. I, I had
I
it.
do.
Yeah, I had a company, and I had a few employees who were working on their PR, and oh my god, like talk about an under administrated, underappreciated, under everything kind of program. Did you have the same
You
experience?
Yes, and you know the drill, right? So I think we are going to talk about it over here. But yeah, 4 years, for the past 4 years itself, it has been a lot of ups and downs, especially related to a specific community itself that I'm not going to take a name of, but yeah, we everyone knows how much we all love them. But yeah, it's completely different. Went through a rough patch, had a lot of um problems with them related to records, related to other stuff, and eventually at the end of the day just learned a lesson itself that it's not the people that are bad, it's the people that are guided by other people who tend to pick up the same slacks. So it's been just like that, and I'm very happy I got through that. But anytime now anyone is following my steps, my footsteps, I just want to guide them better. That's what my situation will be, I guess. But yeah, it's a kind of a hot mess right now. It's super hot, and I don't know how people are still dancing in this super hot mess, rather than not working. So I think we are just one step away to, have a homeless person and an Indian origin person at the same level. So I
Yeah,
think we can get the gist of it. So yeah, again, not trying to bring anyone down, but yeah, that's the part of life. If you don't go ahead, don't do something that is really beneficial for the country. You put your country first. It's kind of what we've been taught. So you move towards putting your skill set, putting up or devoting your time towards something that really is needed over here. I think, yeah, you will excel. But if not, then there are a lot of free riders and chokers over here that I say that are still gonna do something stupid, illegal, and just blame on the whole economy. It's just oh, the country didn't did really well for me, so I'm here now trying to get my revenge, and they don't understand that, so petty mindset, or I should say, because we have a brain, it's shaped as a walnut. For the other people, they have a brain which is shaped like a peanut, so they have that, which I won't give it away. But yeah, that's the whole reality of it. That's the whole gist of it.
yeah, just the system alone, like if you live here and then you want to work for a company in the States, oh my lord, you like and it's just kind of like, well, I never understood, because I'm like, well, if you're Canadian and you're working for a company in the States, that means you're bringing money into the literally money that didn't exist in the Canadian economy.
Exactly.
It's coming here.
Exactly. You're just holding on to it, right? So how you're contributing? Well, I don't know. They have that kind of an attitude. And I'm like, maybe God,
Yeah,
because I heard a meme the other day itself when God was distributing brains or the vision itself, like some people were out of the city, right? So they never got that.
yeah.
So, or they were under the bed, which eventually a lot of people are still there, they haven't evolved, and it's completely different. So I don't know what might happen, but I wish all the best for everyone. At the end of the day, I'm a
Of
human
course.
too.
Yeah.
But yeah, firm believer in karma, just do whatever you can do, just help whatever you can help, but not to get my full hand when I'm only supposed to give a finger. So yeah.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so let's talk about your post here for a second. So
Sure.
I'm gonna go to my TikTok here, and I'm gonna look at, and it's kind of funny because somebody actually commented on my comment on your post today. So it was like, oh yeah, right, that's right, I did make that comment. So now if I could find it, of course, everybody panicked because TikTok was gone there for a while.
Oh yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that was a moment, eh?
That was the moment, and I felt very. I shouldn't even say, it was kind of funny because I was seeing American creators, right? And I can understand it's their bread and butter, but the way they were coming out to show that respect, or like, being in fear itself, it kind of made me like, oh my God. So eventually, what are we doing? The American companies are switching to Canadian creators now, and we're gonna have a creator fund over here, so that at least, like, there are some amazing people in this community. Like, there are some amazing, amazing content creators that can get a grab of it. Like, they can get a piece of a pie. So why?
Y-
You're not.
y- Yeah, and what I found really funny was all the creators that they thought it was over, so they gave these weird confessions like, "Oh, by the way, this isn't my house. I was renting this out for by the hour, or I've never done a workout in my life." And things like, and I'm a
Exactly.
fitness coach. That was weird.
That was hilarious because now the miserable side of them was coming out, and they knew, like, yeah, at least like this platform is going away. And the way they switched platforms, they went into that Chinese app store and they started creating their profiles over there so that if you don't find me over here, you can find me over there. I'll be doing the same thing over there. Like, come on, like, at least give it like 24 to 48 hours to make a decision on it, and then you
You
can
would
decide.
think.
But no, but they would be like, nah, I'm going. And then the Trump announcement, like, got everyone back. And then they still started complaining that the TikTok is not seen like that. So,
Well, of course they did. What? For some reason, I was just on it, and now all of a sudden, oh, here we go. I found my
beautiful.
comment. Took me a second here. Okay, so your video essentially was talking about what it is that people that migrated into Canada do that kind of pisses off Canadians, essentially, or is at
100%.
odds with, right? So this guy Jack Steele said, when it comes to Diwali, I don't have a problem with people celebrating their own things. Just do it nicely. I shouldn't have to be up till 5 a.m. for 2 days in a row. And then I'll just read the comments off here quick. I said, yes, my girlfriend's dog was losing her mind because of the fireworks, and her kids were miserable in school the next day, being up so late, so frustrating. And then this Auntie Stina said to me, one could argue further that our traditions are something to adjust to recently with the holidays and celebrations. And then a bunch of people kind of went off in a little bit of random directions. And then there was a lot of opinion about, at least Canadians should be informed, although I don't think there's too many Canadians that don't at this point know what Diwali is or what it's all about.
That's true.
And then there was a lot of talking about freedom of religion and all that, and how it's a Christian society, which, guys, Canada is not a Christian society. It's not a thing. In fact, our system of government is pretty separated. And then there's some more people talking about Diwali celebrations and how they've disrupted their lives, essentially. People talking about how I don't understand why they don't follow the 11 p.m. cutoff for noise violations and all that. So this video is a bold thing to put on the internet, my friend.
100%. It is.
Why did you do it? Why did you post it?
Well, the main reason for me at that time was that I do have a lot of friends that are Canadian born Indians, and their parents were migrants. They came in 1917s, built a life itself and all. They came forward, and I also felt like after COVID, after 2020, 21, when the gates just opened up like crazy for all the immigrants, we got one of the cheapest immigrants in the country. And why I say that, I know it's going to be a big, bold statement coming out from a person who himself is an immigrant, but I felt like, on a lot of times that these guys were never supposed to be on the soil, like, period. Why? Number one, they have no basic manners or basic etiquettes itself, like, what we've been taught in school. And when I say those basic manners, I tremendously go forward with, like, keeping quiet or keeping low volume when you're around people, around groups, not to, like, shout on the top of your heart itself. Because look at Young in Dundas Square. Just like perfect example. I go there often because I work over there. So I do have to take a walk, like, 9, 10, sometimes, like, if I'm not driving. And there's only one certain group of people itself that are um, rowdy, that are abusive. that are fighters, and they want to show the on top of their heart itself that yeah, like this is our land because we came over here, we got invited, so we just gonna behave the way we're gonna behave. So the video was a portray on those people like me who come into this country itself and who want to make this a home. Okay, who wants to
Right.
be around people like who respects your privacy, who respects you as a person, who respects you as an individual itself. Because back home, like I don't know how many audience of yours doesn't know, but back home we have a very strong caste system. Like we are divided into castes. Like hey, if you are a Hindu, if you are a Christian, if you are a Punjabi, if you are like a Muslim itself, they also have a subcategory within those divisions itself. So when I come over here, I tell people that I'm an Indian and everyone agrees to it. If I say this same thing back home in India, that I'm an Indian, they will ask me, what kind of an Indian am I? So you have to go out, you have to put filters there. You have no basic manners over there. Because again, we are talking about billions of people who are not educated. And again, my country is not educated. And like, a lot of people who say, like, this is a developing country. Yes, it is developing in some regions, but in some regions it's still uneducated because we have a vast population. So coming forward, putting that video on TikTok was just a message to each and everyone that, hey, coming forward to Canada or to US or anywhere that you go away from India, it's a privilege for you because these countries are inviting you on your best behavior. And if you can't show your best behavior, you're not supposed to be here because at the end of the day, the animals and hooligans belong in a jungle. And this is a very well behaved society, right? Like, and there's a lot of things, there are a lot of good stuff, there's a lot of bad stuff. There's always good and bad. There's always a yin and yang, like, so only some people who took that message really in a positive way were the ones who came forward to develop a lifestyle for themselves, who wanted to have that American dream or Canadian dream very close to them. And after that video, like, oh my God, I think it was my second week when the video was still blowing. So I was getting notifications like here and there, like, someone commented this and that. I got so many threatening messages from my own people who never understood the structure. And they were like, you need to put that video down because if you do not, I'm going to find you and and I'm like, oh my God, like, this is wow. So someone sends me a sword picture of his, like, he's holding a sword, and like, and he snapped it. And like, he's like,
Oh, geez.
if I find you, I will send. And I'm like, oh my God, this is bloody out of hand. So I never stop because I know, like, these guys are already, they have a peanut head. They do not have a walnut in there. They have a peanut. That's what I say, peanut people. It's no reason to argue with them. But the people who are going to resemble with it are the well behaved individuals who came forward to develop a life for themselves, what we didn't have back home. And one thing that I love about Canada is it's 7 years here. I never had a credit card back home when I was growing up. I always had a debit card. So credit score for us was never a picture, like, and obviously, like, no one teaches you how to use credit over here, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
There were a lot of YouTube itself or the people that you circulate or surround yourself with who told you a lot of good stuff. Like, when I was in school, they showed me how to get into a co-op and how to make some extra money with side hustles itself. And best thing was like, that anytime I wake up, I just have to sit in my car, go around, and I'll make some money because I'm talking about Uber or something, right? So obviously I knew when I was a student I had to make ends meet, but now because I'm on a very good level, like, that progress with it, like the small steps initially led to a bigger step. I think I'm very happy that Canada invited me, and I would love to call this my second home because, again, at the end of the day, even if I become a citizen over here or a permanent resident, I'm still going to be Indian. It's just that I'm a Indian in Canadian soil, like, or on a Canadian soil. So that's a different story. So big bold statement would be like, people need to take a positive message out of that because again, I thoroughly talked about especially our people because we are the ones who love to be over social media because we feel it's a la la land, it's a Cinderella world. We not, no one's gonna say anything to us, and I think it's a big slap to them that eventually everyone monitors TikTok, everyone monitors social media, even government agencies. So whatever
Mhm.
you're doing good or bad, it gets recorded over there. So main reason is like, whatever we are done back home, it's time to like, stop that, erase that, because it's a new identity, it's a new world for you. So you can just start it from the scratch itself. And that's what I love about it. And that was the only reason to post it, to spread some positivity. But I guess like I got a lot of positive message from the people who are actually born and brought up over here. Like, even I never had any Indian commented on it who's an immigrant itself. Obviously, they sent out messages. I did got a lot of good messages, also a lot of good feedback. But I was looking through, I was scrolling through. At one time, I lost track of it. I was like, I cannot like every comment or reply to every comment, so I'll just let it slide.
Right.
So it was just that identity itself, like that we are missing is like, dude, you're coming into a foreign world. You are an immigrant. You are a foreign person. Come forward, adapt to the resources around you, respect, and just like move along. Like, just play the long game, because that's what get you the highest part itself. And I think like a lot of people understood that and a lot of people didn't. And I don't want to like, go ahead and educate them, because like, a lot of the times they do get their medicine itself when they are providing for themselves, or they understand that this is something that was not right. I wasted my time, but then it would be too late to understand, because again, you have been seen, I was too hard on the protest itself. I was actually making a lot of videos on the protest that was happening in Brampton. And I still do not understand the concept of that protest itself, because
Which
their
protest?
demand, it's happening in Brampton, where international students said, like, they need an extension of work permit. They were used during COVID, like, when no one was working, they were the ones who was doing the dirty jobs. And I was
Mm.
like, I don't know what's dirty, like, because you were not like, in the sewer itself and cleaning the toilets all over the city. So that was the garbage truck guy. So, but it's okay, like, it was a hard job. Maybe brewing a Tim Hortons was completely different, because when I asked for a sleeve from a Tim Hortons girl, she like, it's hilarious, man. It's hilarious. Every morning you wake up, you don't want to brew your coffee, you go to Tim Hortons and you get a wrong coffee. So I have taken that. I'm like, yeah, this is our fault, because I think English is really a foreign language for us. So I cannot communicate in Punjabi. So plus I do not even know like how to say it to them. Sometimes I feel like I grab a wrong coffee itself, and I'm saying sorry to them, like, hey, I'm sorry because I grabbed a wrong coffee. It's not your fault that you gave me a wrong coffee. So it's fine. But they still need to understand that, the protest, like, let's talk about that, like, Jay, for a second itself. Their
Sure.
demands were basically like extending work permits, giving them equal opportunities for the CEC class, through which we get qualified itself, through which we get our points in the pool itself. Like, so it means what you study, what you work, what job titles you had, eventually all of that. So that combines itself to make us a solid point. And I had like a 534 out of 800 in order to get selected for a permanent residency program. A lot of students do not have that, because the main reason for them is a lot of students, when they came forward, they only work cash jobs or factory shifts or trucking jobs.
Mm.
And again, like, for them, it would be a skill set, because these guys are 21, 22 years old, who came forward from one of the most remote communities in the country. They got here, they say, they see all this, like, amazing stuff around them. Like, that means you're earning in dollars, you have a credit card, you can buy any car that you want, and you're living within your own community. So language is never a problem. So when they come forward over here, they do not think outside of the box itself, and they just follow the same pattern, the same trend, what their peers have done. And
Right.
they completely forget that the peers got their permanent residency when the immigration was not a hot mess. It was not a desert. It was not a Sahara desert. It was not this hot. Now
Mhm.
every blame is on Indian migrants and Indian immigrants, because as I've said, we love to show ourselves on the video. We love to entertain ourselves or put ourselves into those shoes, or in those shoes itself, which are not suited for the economy itself on some reason or the other. And again, because they do not have brains. And you cannot get a skill set like, doing some mediocre jobs, like, brewing Timmy's coffee, because that's a high school kid's job. They are the ones who need that job itself.
Yes.
They are the ones who need that aspect, the first job which comes forward to them is like, hey, where did you work? I worked at a customer centric role. Like, I was on a call, I had a headset, I was communicating with guests, I was handling that pressure because drive through is like immensely busy, right? Like, so we definitely needed those kind of people over there. And when everything was a disaster, they just jumped on to whatever they can grab. And again, it's a problem both ways where like government invited so many people because they were hungry for money, and they I don't know where the spending happened, like the overspending or the deficit itself. It's chaos. But
Mhm.
students had to understand, especially Indian migrants had to understand that we are coming forward into a new country itself. We have to frame our roots, we have to frame something that's very solid so that it helps us out in the future. And they did not, they never understood. So I also wanted to say, like, during that time, it's when I was listening to them, Sean Fraser, who became an immigration minister during COVID itself, he extended our work policies, our temporary work policies for 18 months. So in Canada, when we come as a student itself, if we do 2 years of course, which is a diploma or a post graduation diploma, we get 3 years of work permit. On top of that 3 years, we got an extra 18 months.
Okay.
Okay, so that makes roughly very close to 48 plus 6, 54 months, which is very close to almost 6 years. 6 years is enough to go ahead, frame a future, frame a skill set, and do something that someone else is not doing. Everyone was working a cash job. They
Right.
were making that money. They were taking sub payments, EI, because the government was like, yeah, just like, you need to survive, so we'll give it out. And now their demands are like, that our work permit was never extended. It was a hard policy. Our CRS score never improved, or you just increased the CRS score to a level itself that we cannot match up. And I tell them one thing, one of the TikToks actually banned me because I actually entered that TikTok. They literally banned me because I told them, guys, if you are so mad, like, if you are telling me that the government is not helping out in any way, and you have made everything, you have made all the money, you have saved all the money. Today, if I become like, the immigration minister and I tell them, I will give you the PR, but give me all that money back, the $60,000. Will you give me that money back so that I can use that money for the welfare of Canadians? And
Hmm.
everyone was like, why? That's our money, that's our job. Like, it was their job to feed us. And I'm like, why is their job? They were not your mommy and daddies. They were
Yeah.
just your guardians itself who was telling you to, like, do something useful for your life so that you wouldn't be sitting on the streets protesting. So what's the difference between you and a beggar who actually begs on the intersection? And they literally lost it. Like 4 or 5 people pushed me out and they banned me. So I was just like, why is it so hard to understand a simple concept is you come forward, you behave. First and foremost, the basic principle, you behave. You put yourself into a Canadian culture, forget everything. You have a fresh start, you have a fresh slate. You go ahead, create a future for yourself, and move ahead so that when anyone asks you, hey, how was that experience? You have some stories to tell them. I went through the lowest to the highest, then went to the lowest to the highest, because that's what the Canadian dream is. You don't become rich overnight. Everyone is struggling, everyone. And the
Yeah.
only ones that are not struggling are the ones who are already dead. So that is the only reason that you're like, you don't have anything. You have no excitement. You have nothing, like, no sorrow. So eventually, all of these people, they need to understand one thing, that the government is getting harsh. It's a new wave that's coming in. Um, Conservatives are coming in, and I saw few of their videos in the past itself. Like, it's amazing how things are happening, how things are actually gonna take a quick turn now. And the people who
Mhm.
are still protesting, believing that, that we still have loopholes because we cannot work hard, like, working hard is too much to us, so we'll find a shortcut and try to squeeze in. I think they are going to have a lot of problem related to it. And I believe,
Yes.
like, not everyone is invited in the country because, again, I was looking at one of the data itself. 60% of the crimes are committed by the immigrants, by immigrants
In Canada?
in Canada. If you see like a Stats Canada, they generated one of the reports. I think I saw it like day before yesterday. It was posted on Twitter by Table Salt. Um, he's the one I'm following up. So I encourage everyone follow him. He posts some great content. And he said, like, it's mostly immigrants, like, coming out from US or from anywhere around the globe itself, and Canada invites them with open arms, and they are the ones who are taking advantage of this system, and which is very true. Like, you don't find the good ones, but you find the bad ones at each and every spot. So I think that's a time to change yourself. That's
Yep.
what I can say.
I find that stat to be staggering. Although I wonder what the definition is. That anybody who doesn't have permanent residence or is a
Yes,
citizen.
it
So
is
that's a
someone who's on
big
a, it's
pool.
a big number. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, it's
big
a
pool
big pool of
because
people.
I think, like, even if you go on Stats Canada or if you go on IRCC website, because now you can see, like, they were saying almost about 200,000 work permits will be finished by December 2025. The number is much more higher because just in one quarter of 2024, which is September to December of 2024, almost 584,000 study permits were issued.
Wow.
And
That's
on
a
top of
big number
that's a big number.
on a
So the
population of 40 million. That's a huge number.
exactly, it's a crazy number. And at the same time, almost about like 384,000 students had applied for a work permit. Now, these are 1 year work permits or 3 years work permit. They did not have a definition of that. But let's say this was also a 1 year work permit. So by
Mhm.
December 2025, their work permit will be done. So you are looking at a number of 384,000 plus the whole year of 2025. So that number could be anywhere between 600,000 to 700,000 or much more higher. Do you think
Yeah.
people are going to leave with that? No, like, they are going to find ways. They are going to find loopholes. They're going to find a reason to like cross border. Now I feel like, crossing border is also not possible because Donald Trump is there. So I guess like the people who advertise, like, hey, you pay this guy $2,000, he's gonna get you up there, like, and you just start a lifestyle over there. I think they're also gonna come back and start like doing stupid things in
Yeah.
Canada because they tried to escape this. America didn't work out for them. They're gonna come back and are gonna and file like, asylum cases or like refugee statuses itself. And that's a big worry for Canada itself because these guys get all the welfare, and I see like, people around me in my parks itself, they are trying to make their ends meet. And like what will they do when the government is not helping them out? They are already helpless and the people around them are not helping them out, and then I see these amazing people who come forward and play the system. They are being the richest, like, so it's all about how the policy is being framed up, how the government has been enacting towards it, like, they know everything but they have shut their eyes. So it's completely different. And then I saw Chandra Arya, like, he's running for prime minister. I think you saw one of those videos. It's where he said he doesn't even know French, but going forward and like, getting a message itself to the Quebecers itself is like a big thing. And I made a video on it that Quebecers are trying to fight for their language for the past 300 years. They want to make it official itself. Like, they do not want that language to be forgotten. So how can you come forward and make such a bold statement? But now I see like, the amount of Indian nationals that are in the country itself, or the people who are framed of refugees and they got their permanent residency or the citizenship, how easy it would be to like, grab a vote from them to go
Yeah.
forward and talk to your own people. Like, that's concerning. That's really concerning because again, um, it's completely turning out to be a um, very similar issues that we used to have back home. And I think that trend is falling up, and the government needs to do something, like, and I think it's a rise and shine situation for each and everyone, each and every Canadian that's been here for 2 3 decades. They know what's right, what's wrong, and people who are growing up here, like, who knows, like, that immigration is a big problem. They need to work out on this. They need to figure out a standard for themselves and who they actually select their own leaders as. So that's the whole situation.
Yeah, it's such a big topic, right? Because you've got so many different facets to it. Like I know in the neighborhood where my girlfriend lives, it's a very there is a lot of, we'll just say across the board Indian people in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
And I would say it's probably every, 2 out of every 5 houses minimum. Okay.
yeah,
But
yeah.
those houses have a lot of people in them.
That's true.
And so the community is now divided. You can see it. Like I've tried to there's this one old Indian gentleman who, for the longest time, he would just open his garage and stand there and stare at me,
Oh my
uh,
God.
shoveling or doing the grass or something. And then I would finish up and I would be shutting the garage door and I'd look and he'd be shutting his garage door. And I'm like, what? So one day I tried talking to him, right? I was like, hey, man, what's up? And he just shut his garage door and never showed up again. And I was like, well, like,
Oh
what the
my
heck is the
God.
point, right? I don't get why. But and so there's topics like divided communities, because it seems like, she had a 10-year-old son, Preston, and to his credit, he had a birthday party whenever his birthday was, September, I think. And it's a blur because I haven't been around that many kids ever in my life.
I
And
see.
like, it's multicultural, it's like he has so many friends from all different cultures, different colors, back, and it's super cool to see. But adults can't seem to pull that off as well these days, and that's what causes these segmented communities. Like, I grew up, my parents had, I mean, I didn't even really understand why people cared about these things when I was a kid, because it was just a multicultural party in our backyard all the
100%.
time, right? And,
100%.
but that has kind of slid away. And then you've got issues like, the Diwali and, that taking over a neighborhood, or prayer in the park, things like that. And then you've got, how do you deal with these things? Because we already have actual citizens here who are living on the streets in tents, especially if you go to Vancouver and you go to East Hastings and you,
That's true.
you
Yeah.
see what's going on
Yeah.
there. So how do you bring people in this country if you can't even take care of the people that are in this country? And then there's all kinds of subsets of issues that people have with immigration and what's going on out there. And a large piece of it is, like you said, it's kind of a respect for the society you're coming into.
Sure.
So I have a few questions for you. The first one is, what is your life like? So you obviously have customs from your culture that you still subscribe to, and they're part of who you are. They're core to your values, core to your character. How do you balance, like, let's say, I see in spring, summer, and fall, I see this group of about 18, 20 men and women that go to the park and they do prayer in the park, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's even, I don't care who you are, what religion you're in, it's a little uncomfortable for people that aren't,
It
in
is. It
you know
is 100% Jay. And I do not feel a guest of that conversation because I've been in so many fights, arguments with people around. I can understand that, yeah, you have a God, you have someone that you worship or someone you look out for. Like, anytime you have a problem, you go ahead. But I cannot tell you to just like stop your car in the middle of the road, put on your bed sheet, and start praying. Like, it's not possible. So if I make you a speed breaker during that process, I'm not at fault because you're just like utilizing a public space. And things have happened in the past. Like, again, there's a lot of misconception between right now Indians and Punjabis, like, because I've seen, like, it was a lot of argument with my people, like the people that I was working with. And I work at a certain office itself, like, when Diwali was there, like, we were told to dress up in a certain way. But when Halloween happened or Christmas happened, no one said a word. No one said a word. So how is that even possible that, you're telling me to, like, promote one, but you're not just like saying anything. You're not even saying Merry Christmas. Like, how's that even possible? So I
Yeah, that
stopped
that
that
Merry
from
Christmas is a weird thing, man. Merry,
exactly like
I don't understand. There is not I don't know anybody that when they say Merry Christmas, they're like Merry Christ, God, and Christians. You know what I mean? It's just,
exactly
yeah. It's
like where is that, like, what happened to it? I can understand, like, that you are overpowered or you feel like, yeah, like, we are in the zone itself where we have our kind of people itself. But are you forgetting the roots itself? Like 25 December is 25 December, 25th December is 25th December, 31st December is 31st. Like, you have a happy new year and a Merry Christmas. Like, so how can't you, like, go ahead and describe that thing when you're trying to promote all your other stuff? So I feel like, this is a kind of a weak power or a mental circulation that we have in a mindset, is like we can take advantage of anything. And I think people are
Yeah.
seeing how easy it is to come to a country and just start protesting. Like I'm telling you, I live in downtown Toronto. Every second or third day, the Nathan Phillips Square streets are closed just because there's a protest going on. Like, for what? Excuse me. Like, I need to go to office. Like, how am I supposed to go park my car 4 blocks away and start walking? Like, what? Like, and then I feel like the cops, like, the policemen, like, they are so underpowered. Like, they are
Yeah.
so in minimum quantity itself. Like, if you put all the police officers there and someone tries to attack on the west block of the city itself, they can't even get there because they're just occupied with all of these things. So I think the power trip that's happening in Canada at the moment of time is solely kind of a solopreneurship. So they are trying to build up a community and trying to decorate their people with that mindset, and they are following them blindly, which never was a problem itself when the people came forward in 1970s and 80s itself, because we were a percentage of the community. It said Canada was still growing. There were like people, there were like families who were devoting their time and everything. And now this influx of people that came forward, and cheap people, cheap quality, like, that's what I say. Shouldn't say made in China, but I can say made in Bangladesh. So they are kind of there itself, and it's creating more chaos for each and every one. The other day I was in Mississauga, and like, I was walking my girlfriend's dog. This Muslim family came out and they said like, hey, you cannot let your dog pee in front of my gate. And I'm like, well, he's a dog, right? He's an animal. He's not a human. He's not going to roll to the side. It's all find a Tim Hortons washroom. He's going to do it. They're like, no, that's haram for us. And I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, what? So I wanted to record her so bad, but like she's wearing the burqa itself, so I don't even know what exactly it is. Is this a Muhammad or a Mustafa in there? I really have no idea. So I'm like, well, you know what? I do not want to talk to you. And I got into a heated argument over the words with her. And I just thought to myself, is it really like, worth it to fight over words itself? I'm like, I'll pull my dog the other way. Like, what kind of structure are we building up over here? Like, that you can't walk. And I saw a few of the reels itself that there were like some other people from the other communities who were complaining about the same thing. So how did it happen, like as an open-minded society became a narrow-minded society and a specific community that wants to create the most chaos? And
Right.
I think that is the biggest picture that we have to ask ourselves as an immigrants, because again, if I'm born and brought up over here, or like, someone that I meet who's born and brought up over here, they will have their own problems. I had problems when I was back home, when I was in India. I had my mental problems, I had my money financial problems. We are living our life like, the way we want it, right? And that's where, like, situation actually starts. We create a situation ship, and I think most of the Canadians are in the same boat. And now, when they see these kind of people who are getting more than them by working less, taking advantage of the system, taking care, they drive the most fancy cars, which is again not a big deal. Everyone deserves to live a happy life in Canada. But if you're trying to bring the other person down, just by showing that you are the one, the only valued over here, I think there's some serious issue with their mindset. And they need to be just picked up, tagged in a plane, and maybe thrown to the country of origin where they come from. Because again, fleeing into a country, insulting people, and trying to make a joke out of them when the country is trying to feed you is like a big thing. And I really do not want to do that because I know karma is very real. I don't know how many people believe in that these days, but hey, like, if you're trying to build up, if you're trying to get into a society that welcomes you, that nourishes you, and you are not trying to give away your mindset, and you're creating more second home, I could say, like, a mini India or mini Palestine, like, mini Pakistan. It's a serious issue. And I think
Yeah.
our leaders are the biggest culprit for that, because again, I talk to so many students, Jay. Like, when I do sessions itself, because they usually consult me, like, what courses to take, how to apply for a job itself. I asked them, like, hey, like, when you were coming forward, did you got your background checked? And they were like, yeah, it was there in 2018, but now it's not there. It's not
Mhm.
there anymore. So the country doesn't even, like, Canada doesn't even know, like, if they were a criminal back home, do they have
That's
like any
crazy.
serious offenses, like, so it's just from my thing. So imagine, like, all the other countries the people are coming out from, they could have the same issue. And who's creating chaos with that issue? The people who are actually setting foot in Canada, and they're just like wild animals. They're just like
Right.
going around and haunting everyone. So that's a serious situation. So my suggestion for them would be, like, hey, just go ahead, like, I know, like, people are so thick skulled, it doesn't pass through them, so you do need a bow and arrow, sometime a machine gun, to just like go forward and tell them, like, yo, this is something
Proverbially.
that you need. Verbally.
Proverbially.
100%.
Proverbially.
See, oh, I completely forgot that that's gonna be a part of the video. Yes. On the second note, verbally, like, it should
Yeah.
go ahead and you should tell them that this is something that you are doing bad, and something that can happen in a situation that you are not aware of. So if they understand that, beautiful. If not, life teaches them a lesson. But I'm super happy that, at least the volume of immigrants, the volume of Indian students that were not meant to the quality itself is kind of coming down, because there's been a decline of 65% in study visas in this quarter. So, which is a
Wow.
really amazing news, right? Plus, the second best thing that happened is all these money making colleges who opened their campuses in downtown Toronto, Brampton, downtown Mississauga. Now they're seeing, like, how hard the immigration has been. Their campuses are shutting down. And
Mm,
these are just some phony schemes that they had, like,
right.
and I am so, so happy,
Yeah.
because for all the past decade itself, they made tons of money. Like Kitchener Waterloo region, like Conestoga, it became a $1 million institute in almost like 5 years. And they have
Wow.
been still expanding. So I'm so happy for them that these colleges that do not provide any value to the students are shutting down eventually. And the students who are coming, who just came for a reason itself, that, yeah, we're just going to get in Canada and we're going to start earning in cash, they are also being scrutinized heavily. So it's
That's
a
good.
lovely structure to see at, like, so I wish, like, it becomes much more better. But like, relatively, I think it's high time that these people need to understand that protests are going to do nothing. It's going to destroy their zone itself, because you're eventually on videos itself. These videos get circulated like 100,000 times, a million times all over the internet itself. And if this goes to any of the government agency, and they will see, like, this guy was a part of a, like, abusive protest, destroying the peace environment and everything, it's hard time not to give them a permanent residency or a citizenship. So it's
Right.
eventually like that. Just work out, just be on in your zone itself, and just start the process like the other people are doing, like, slow and steady wins the race. There's no feeling of, like, having shortcuts and, like, creating more chaos, trying to find, like, loopholes in every structure. And I think that is coming to an end itself, which is really amazing. I don't know if it's going to go to a zero eventually, but at least it's getting caught. It's actually coming to an end itself, which is a good news to start up with for Canadians.
For sure. So, okay. So, a few things because we're getting on to about 54 minutes here.
Yes.
So, okay. So, back to because you kind of addressed it, but I'll be a little more specific about it. So, you have these particular parts of your life that are from India, and particular parts of your life that are now you're in Canada now.
Mhm.
What is your methodology, or what is, or specific examples even of how you create that balance?
That's an amazing question, though. I think one thing that I know is when I go out, I feel that people are watching me,
Okay.
and that is a certain kind of a behavior. What I feel is in their eyes, and the way I will show myself is gonna reflect on how the whole community of people is. Like, for a lot of people, brown skin, Indian, first impression. So if I do anything stupid, the first impression would be, yeah, they are like that. What are you going to do? Because that's a stereotype that has been built up.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not wrong about it, because if I go with an intention of destroying some peace and creating more chaos, I'm going to get that. But if I stay in my zone, if I stay calm, collective, which I always have been. As I said, when I came to a bigger city itself, I didn't go nuts. I was not crazy, I'm gonna do this, that, be progressively crazy and hit people or hit the clubs, pick up this, pick up that. No, I was like very calm about myself, what I came for. So my first condition has been that my mindset tells me that my people or the people around me are watching me, and it creates a balance. It creates a kind of an environment for them if they are feeling safe around me. Having my presence makes them safe,
Right. Okay.
because a lot of those people do not understand that, and I want to keep that to myself. So that is the only precaution that I take for myself. um I have stopped going out, I don't know about other people, but that is how my mentality actually works. If I'm back home, definitely that's my country, that's my region, or that's my kind of a city itself. I know where to go, how to behave with people. There's no one to judge me, because at the end of the day, I'll be Indian. But when I'm in Canada, I'm a Canadian Indian, right? Canada first. So I wouldn't even say that an Indian was pushed to Canada itself. So that's all about me. People could be different, people mindset could be different, but that is my mindset, that people are watching me and I have to keep myself calm and collective and create a better, perfect example for myself. That's all.
So is it that when you go out, you're part of society? So in that,
Yes.
being in part of being in that society, you become accustomed to that society. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Yeah, something like that.
Yes.
Okay, and then at
100%.
home, you're gonna like I always use this example. I'm like, if people saw me at home, they'd be like, he's a lot weirder than I thought he was, right? But when I go out, it's like a switch flips, right? Even I do it, or I'm like, because I'm not the most social creature on earth, like my Christmas was bananas for because I have my girlfriend is like very Christmas, so
I
party, party,
see.
party, 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 and by like the 11,000th party, I was
Oh
like,
my
oh,
God.
this is a lot of people, but I remember specifically one of the last parties we went to. I remember I was getting changed and I was like, I just need a minute. And I just was like, shoot a little quiet meditation to myself to get ready to put on that face to go and be like, hey everybody, how you doing?
I need a moment to myself, because yeah,
Yeah.
same thing happened on 25th. I was invited by my four previous employers. It has happened in all these 7 years that I had some really good relations with them. They called me home because I do not have a family over here. I live by myself. So they saw it. They called me out for a Christmas dinner, or maybe early brunch itself, and I went out. I showed up the way they wanted to be. It's kind of a belongingness around them, right? Because
Yeah.
again, once a year, it's something that they are proud of. Why do I have to get in that zone itself and create my own chaos? So I learned that, I'm not socially very, extrovert itself. I take my time. Such an introvert itself, but I'm extrovert with the certain people that I really know. So
Right.
I would have that energy with myself. I would be like, okay, four more families to go. We gotta get this done. There's some gifts to be sent, some dinner to be
Mhm.
done, lunch to be done, and we're gonna go ahead, tell them Merry Christmas and come back. And
Yeah.
amazing, it's a great time because they love that vibe, they love that attitude, they love the mutual respect that you have for them. So it takes a long term. They will do the same thing when my Diwali festival is gonna come forward, because again, they'll be like, this guy was super friendly and super chill when the Christmas party was happening, and why would we go ahead and disturb the Diwali structure for them? Because it's their culture, it's their thing. And I think that is the best quality that someone can imagine for themselves. That's all.
Yeah, that makes sense. So on the Diwali note, I don't want to belabor it or anything, but like in India, is everybody up till 5 a.m. throwing firecrackers around and stuff?
We
Like,
are
is that?
so this has been kind of out of control for the past decade. Like earlier, it wasn't like that.
Mhm.
We used to go ahead with firecrackers and everything until 11, 12 max. That was our zone, 11, 12, because we do have dogs back home that used to get scared with the fireworks. So you have to put them in a house, lock it up so that the the noise itself doesn't bother them, because they used to cry a lot. But
Mhm.
now I'm seeing the pattern that was back home is being shifted to Canada. And again, as I said, these were not the people that were supposed to be here. They were never supposed
Right.
to be here. Okay, so they came forward, and because when you stay with your kind of people, the mindset they have, you evolve with that, right? Like, so you pick up the slacks that they have thrown, like, the bread and butter that they are throwing at you, you're picking up that. So the people who have been living here, like, for the past 6, 7 years, who do not even care, like, what rules are, what like a private space is, like, have to give privacy to the other person, and not, they don't care. So now it has been chaotic. It has been. And I can understand, like, that this has been completely different. The same thing happens with Indian weddings.
Yeah.
Back home, right? Like, I'll
Yeah.
give you that, man. Like, back home, I'd never seen anything like, going until like 1 or 2 a.m. We never used to play like DJs or something, like, going on the roads itself, or being at a social event. Like, we booked out a hall itself and we are playing loud music until 1 or 2. We had certain rules back home. And especially the main thing for us was like the administration back home is kind of strict. So if we
Mm.
are allowed to play music until 1, they will come forward and make sure the music stops at 1. If it is not stopped, they're gonna pick up the stuff, they're gonna take it with them, and they're gonna like burn it. They are that strict.
Wow.
So it is complete. I think it's kind of an administration. It's kind of the rules, the power, like, that needs to be shown, needs to be implemented in Canada. And I feel like, because everyone is taking advantage of Canada at the moment, this is one thing that's happening the most.
Yeah,
Yes.
because if you're shooting fireworks off in your yard at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's two bylaws you're breaking, not just one. And,
Exactly.
and I don't understand why you can't just like go, hey, we're gonna go out to this area far away from other people's homes
That's true.
and
That's true.
enjoy the park. Because, like, for example, three, I know 5 Indian families that have a rural farm
Mhm.
in Manitoba, and everybody knows each other. It seems like just put out the notice, come out to my
Exactly.
farm, because at your farm you can go until 4. You can go for 4 days if you want. Nobody cares.
That's
Um,
true. Like, take everything with you. Take your people also with you. Your family members shoot together, like, shoot at each other, like whatever the flare guns would be or things would be, like, but again, like, it's a completely different thing what's happening. And I think people need to realize, like, that playing by rules and playing with rules have a lot of ups and downs. So that's the most important thing.
so it's a
And
mix of two things. You think so? It's one, the people coming over, it's not strict enough in regards to them. So there's a lot of people that are just flouting the rules and saying
yeah,
whatever, I'll do whatever I want. And then
yeah,
it's also that the government is not strict enough on these sorts of things, probably because our government is scared to do anything to do with
anything.
culture. Yeah.
Exactly.
um
Exactly.
and so you've got this perfect storm that allows people that don't care about rules to not have any rules, and like that's we can't
Exactly.
it can't
And
function like that.
it's kind of a thunder and lightning at the same time, because mayor of Brampton, like a mayor has a lot of power to stop anything. Like, come on, like,
Yeah,
legally, like it's a lot, it's a big, big thing. It's a big post. But majority of the things, like 90% of the vote banks come from that certain community itself. So they're also kind of afraid to, like, step in. And now I heard about, like, gangs and, like, the other stuff that built up over time. Like, you have two different parties that do not support each other, so you have a chaos going on every time. Then kind of riots, like, Indians, Khalistanis, and everything. So it's a mix and match of everything. So I think till the time the administration understands that it's not about the vote bank, it's not about the money thing, it's more about the power and the peace trip, things will be completely different.
right.
Completely different. Because now Trump in power in US itself, a lot of Indians are going to flee to Canada.
See, yeah,
Lots of Indians.
and that's where the debate gets kind of crazy for me, because I think his policies are
Easy.
way too just out there, but then also Trudeau, his policies are way too lax, and it's like, why can't anybody? I don't understand, and this is a political thing, not an immigration thing, but I don't understand why there's no middle ground anymore. You just
100%.
you got to
Yeah,
be extreme on either side, and that's the way people listen, and that makes no sense to me.
that's
And I just kind of look at it and say, guys, you realize that we wouldn't have any of these problems if we just had a couple checks and balances in place that existed 30 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years, whatever
That's
that is,
true.
you know?
That's true. And I was listening to Pierre itself. He said like immigration was never a problem for Canada. Never ever. It was
Yeah.
never like you've been here, you've been born and brought up here, like and you've seen the quality of immigrants in your time itself. Like, when you were a teenager, when you were in your 20s, 30s, you saw a mix of a culture itself. And now if you go and compare those people, it's completely different thing. Like I can't even realize the people that came with me in 2018 and the people I go out and see now in 2024. It's such a difference. Oh my God.
Mm.
They can't even speak English. So when people say, like, yeah, you don't even know how to speak English, they're completely right. Because either way, I only get two things. Dude, do you speak Punjabi or do you speak Haryanvi? Like, what the hell? I speak English. That's all. Like, that's the official language. Like, communicate with me. So even if I do know Hindi, I do not start a conversation because at the end of the day, I do not want to make people that are surrounded, that are close to me, to feel like, dude, they're talking in their own language and they could be talking in anything. And again, it's no harm. It's a free country. Talk in your own language. But when you're at a social place, when you're out, try to communicate in English so that it's understood by anyone, so that they know, like, it's an easy peasy, easy society to go forward with. And that's all. That's all.
Well, and that was the way it was. I mean, I remember I was at somebody's home. They're speaking German when I was younger. I remember telling my parents when I got home, they're like, how was it at so and so's house? And I was like, I didn't understand what the hell was going on. So I just left. Like, they refused to talk English. So what am I going to do?
See,
Right. So my mom called and said, hey, my son doesn't know German. I don't know if you know this. My son doesn't know German. All he knows is English. Could you, because I was being babysat. That's what it was.
I
And
see.
and although I was a little old to be babysat, whatever. But I was at their place. So my mom calls, says, "Hey, he doesn't know German. If you could speak English," and they were like, "Oh my god, like, yeah, we're so sorry." And then it was done, right? But now it's like if my mom made that phone call now, it would be, excuse me, how dare you? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting because you want to be respectful of people and you want to be respectful of their life experiences and their background and all that. But at the same time, it's kind of the COVID debate that people have. And you say, okay, I get it, your body, your choice, and that pertains to a lot of things. Like, I don't care if you're gay, I don't care if you
Exactly.
I don't care what you do with your body at home. I don't care if you decide to eat McDonald's 4 meals a day, you know, but now we're getting into community. This
Exactly.
affects the community. So that's kind of how I live my life. Like
That's
the
true.
the big my body, my choice in the States was abortion, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's their body. And they're like, well, what about COVID? I'm like, are you saying that they're coming to your house and forcing you to have an abortion? Is that what you're saying? Because if they're doing that, that's a whole other problem.
Exactly.
This is
It's
crazy. Um, so, okay, to put a bow on this. So you have gone through the process, and a lot
yeah.
of people have gone through the process of immigrating to Canada. How do you think, first deal with the people and then deal with the government? How do
Mhm.
you think the people and the government could do better to make it so that we don't end up in a situation where we have like almost a civil war happening over these cultural differences? What are the steps do you think everybody could take?
See, G, I talk about this in one of the podcasts also, like, or the live show. Like, I told them, like, when we get our citizenship over here, we get a ceremony done, right? For that ceremony, before that, we get an exam done where you have to know about the Canadian history. So as a government, because the two governments, two big giants are talking with each other, they are importing these people into the country. I feel like first thing that needs to be done itself is a quality education that can be showcased to the people who are immigrating to the country for the first time. Like I remember when I was getting ready for Canada, I was looking at sports and the TV shows that were much more famous so that I can have a common aspect, a common ground to talk about, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
Friends was the top of the list. Then the 21 Jump Street came forward as a movie itself. That was a lot. That's a lot to take to. But then there was like, it was a lot of good stuff that you can actually tell yourself. And US and Canada, like, it had kind of similar um, nativeness, like, or I should say, like, now I feel like what's the difference? But at that time, like, you could have something to talk about. So I think that one thing that government can actually implement for the students, or the colleges can provide that structure, like, hey, what can you expect out when you are coming to a Canadian grounds itself? Maybe just put that up on an airplane like screen itself, like, when you're
Mm.
close to landing in 15 minutes, they can get a like, gist of it. And as a government, what I've also felt is like the rules are very, very easy. Like, it's so easy to bend rules over here. So I feel like who's been born and brought up, the citizens should have a different aspect of rules, and the immigrants should have a different aspect of rules. That
Oh,
will
that's
make
interesting.
it would make life so easy. Like, why do we have the same concept of DUI for the people who are being here, and the same concept of DUI who's a foreigner? Like, they come on a visitor visa, okay, they rent a car, they hit something or someone, and the end of the day, they are just gone in 6 months. And who's going to pay for those damages? So
Oh, that's
why do
interesting.
we have that? Exactly, right? Like, so how are you going to track that? That guy could be out of Canada. Now he could be in Dubai or in Australia or New Zealand. He could repeat the same thing. So Canada and the other countries are not communicating as a thing itself, as a government. So that should be one priority. Like, hey, make some stronger rules for immigrants, and a different set of rules for the people, the citizens that are born and brought up here, so that it becomes much more easy. It becomes much more easy to filter out people, and who are the bad apples and the bad actors in the economy, so that they could be just like taken away. Why do they have the same privilege as the other people? It's so easy to get a car. It's so easy to like, fraud a document related to anything, immigration, car documents, insurance. Like, it's just so easy. So that's why people are taking those advantages. Like, they're taking that system in their own hands. And then we have players within these, like, brackets itself, who play as an actors, and like, they do the stuff because money laundering, or like, under the table work is everywhere. Like, so
Mhm.
if it becomes a much harder, if it becomes much more flexible to showcase the difference between the two, it would become such a great economy, such a great economy. So no one would argue about why these immigrants are here, they're having doing the same thing, and why our people or our children are not able to get this and that. It would make a hell lot of a difference itself, like Jay. That's what I feel.
That's yeah. That you know what I never even considered that because and then you would obviously like for yourself when you become either your PR or you become permanent, permanent citizen, however you decide to do it, then you would almost graduate to the
Exactly.
rules of regular citizen. That's not a bad idea because that is like a probation,
Exactly.
right? And we have that for jobs. We have that for even heck. I was about to buy a cat for my studio one day, and they were like, "Well, you haven't been a cat owner before, so we're gonna need to see this, this, and this from you." And I was like,
Exactly.
"I'm just
Yeah.
buying a cat here, you know, like this is."
Yeah.
Uh, I'm literally buying a cat because they are so low maintenance compared to a dog, and now you're telling me
100%.
you need to monitor how I would be with a cat for like. So that's interesting. I really like that. I like the idea of almost like a probationary period in Canada, and it would if you're somebody that gets DUIs in India and you want to go to Canada and you find out that the rules are way strict in Canada for DUI,
Exactly.
you're gonna be like,
Exactly.
I guess maybe I shouldn't go.
Shouldn't go, just stay here. Exactly. Like,
Yeah,
or there are there are tier one, tier two, and tier three countries itself, right? So if you're not allowed in tier one and tier two, maybe if you want to escape India, go into tier three. That way it
yeah,
would be much more easier to spend your time over there. And I feel it becomes so much easy to track these people down. Because again, I think you've been listening to news itself, like so many 49,000 students who didn't even attend at school. So
yeah, yeah.
out
That's
of out of 500,000, 49, like 50,000 students are not there. So that's about like 4.3% of the whole population that got study permit. They are still using the resources. They're still
yeah,
using the tax money. They're still going out buying groceries, using gas, getting into like with an acquaintance, taking money. So how would you filter out like where this money is going? Like there's no system. So
yeah,
that need
yeah.
should be tagged up. Like how do we get tagged? Like I remember when I was on a temporary residency, my SIN number is starting with a 9. Now I'm
Yep.
a permanent resident or becoming a permanent resident. My SIN number is going to start with a 5.
Yeah.
So that's an evolution. That's what like things got transitioned into. And like, straight up is going to happen with the citizenship. So I think that is much more important for this government to realize that, hey, we can do this. And it's not hard. Like Canada is still very developed, like, compared to what I come from. Like, so it's amazing to be a part over here. It's better to build a life over here because I know I'm not going to get a lot of judgments. Even if I'm scraping some toilets, no people are going to come to me and saying like, hey, why are you doing that? Like, because this is paying me 14, 15 minimum wage at least, like, so I can get something up for myself. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I would love to see is no public service out.
Oh, yeah.
So, and places like Tim Hortons and all these places and it's fine. Preference to hire immigrants. Okay, great. And you have to pair up with a job before you even get on the plane and come over here.
That's true. That's so true.
And that just speaks to a person's responsibility level. It speaks to how seriously they're taking their commitment to coming over. And at the end of the day, this podcast is called Better, and it's all about making the world a better place and doing better, be better. And I think, I'm not sitting here going, I don't want immigration, and if you're an immigrant, I want a truck to come pick you up and throw you in the ocean one day or something with cement shoes. But I would like to see for everybody, including the immigrants, some of the stuff you're saying happen. And some of the, here's the thing. I'm just a guy in Winnipeg and you're just a guy in Toronto.
Exactly.
And we just came up with better ideas than the government has come up with since
exactly
probably the last 20 years.
Exactly.
And
like it's the same structure. Like, why hasn't that rock moved along? Like, it's the same thing. It's a rock and a chisel that they are sitting on, like, and it hasn't been updated. Like, look at our banking structure, look at our immigration policies, look at our Service Canada. It's the same old school, like, and these are something that has millions of people every year coming into. One system crash is going to be out. The other day I heard in news itself, like someone got into that school association itself and they got the whole data breach. Like, a whole set of people, I think, and they're from India. How come they like, being more advanced itself when we are being a developing nation? We are a G7 nation. How is that even possible? That means like the people who are supposed to take care of this, they are not even worried about like, running this economy because they are not even in Canada. They might be sitting in Switzerland and like, controlling like something with the help of a button or a phone call itself. So it's just that. And coming back again to that Tim Hortons, to that McDonald's barista and the coffee brewing jobs, I feel like there should be filters there. Like, someone who's less than 20 years old should be given a priority over anything else. I can understand the managers could be 22, 23, but I have seen a kid in a 33 and I've seen a mature person at 21. So it makes a lot of difference.
yeah,
So I think though it's completely different because again, like, obviously our skin color is different, but if someone is 16, 17, 18 and they have a summer job, they have a reason to go forward to a spot itself and they can work there. A region itself and they can work their ass off, like, and have some money saved up for their tuition to go into a college and everything, because government money or the government grants are not possibly possible for the people who are born and brought up over here because they have to go through so much of documentation plus like the family income and everything. So if the priority is shifted, like, hey, no more than 20 years old for these kind of a jobs, and managers could have a stretch between 21 to 30, it would become so much better. So much better.
And there's been this minimum wage debate for so long. And I've just said to people, I'm like, this is a much bigger topic, but minimum wage jobs were created for people that are supplementing, like kids living at home or, people like that. But the one problem we do have in Canada that I don't know what to do with is like, for example, I got delivery the other day. And it was minus 44 with the wind chill or something. It was freezing. And this 83-year-old woman was out delivering it. And I said, and it even, I had money in my pocket and I had like a preset tip that I was going to give her. And then I saw her struggle, she's struggling. It's slippery. It's freezing cold. so I was like, I gave her a bigger tip, right? Because I'm like, oh my god, like that you've went through 80 plus years of your life, and this is where you ended up. Like that sucks, you
Exactly.
know.
That
So
sucks.
yeah, so like there are some exceptions to the 20 and all that rule. But yeah, it's like people have now said, okay, well, minimum wage is expected to carry you into a home. You should be able to own a home, you should be able to own 2 cars, have 3
Exactly.
kids. But for minimum wage, I'm like, no, that's not what minimum wage ever was,
That's true. That's
Um,
true.
but that's where you start or where you supplement. That's not where you. That's not your primary, right? But yeah. So that aside, um, what I would like to see from Canada and from Manitoba, and actually, the funniest thing that happened. My girlfriend, she's a public health nurse. Okay, and
Okay.
she
Okay.
messages me and she says, "Hey, I just posted on my story for you go get your new Manitoba health card." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I go on to it and I'm filling it out, and I'm like, "It is 2025, and I am filling out an application for my Manitoba health card from my plastic Manitoba health card." I'm like, "Thanks for entering the 1990s, guys." Like they don't their systems aren't updated for anything. It's craziness. So it's the same thing with this, right? It's they're
Exactly.
they have no interest in even trying to keep up. And like with digital communication and everything the way it is now, and like you said, people from India, there's a lot are on the internet and everything. There's no reason why we can't create a better process that complements immigrants coming in, naturalized citizens here, and so everybody is kind of on the same wavelength. And
Exactly.
so well, you should get into government of some sort because you're the interesting thing. You're willing to have the tough conversation, which a lot of people just shy away from, and a lot of politicians won't touch with a 10-foot pole. But
True.
also you have thoughtful solutions. Yes, some people might find some of the things you say harsh, but it's not harsh without care. It's
That's true.
because you care about the state of things and how things are going, and you want
Exactly.
immigrants to come over here, but you want them to have a good life and to complement Canadian society. And you want Canadians to feel good about the immigrants that they see
Exactly.
it out and about. Yeah. So
Like that's the whole concept of it. Like, coming out from a different parts of the world and having a common ground and not pushing ourselves so that they believe in this. Like, I can go around and tell people to celebrate Diwali because, like, yeah, Diwali is so important. I cannot. Like, it's their mindset, it's the part itself. And I think I talk to so many students, like, going around, like, who are a part of protest. They've been that in that protest for about like 4 to 5 months. If they would have taken that time, 1 hour each, to learn French, they would have gotten into Francophone mobility program and got a PR now, so that that show would have been an end for all. But no,
right.
because
No.
the other people are doing it, they're just following it. So, like, I feel like they're just sheeps. They're like, they do not even know what to do at this time, and they just don't have brains. That's all. And again, as I've said in the video, also I'll say it again, coming to Canada was a privilege. It was not a right. Because if it's our
Yes.
right, the indigenous people would have been here first. They would have been prioritized first. Look at where they are and look at where
Mhm.
we are. If we still think our life is hard, we are creating the chaos itself, and still we are not getting what we want, then I think it's a lot to learn from the people who have been here for few generations and they still haven't been able to make their ends meet. I still see a 80 and a 85 years old working at a Costco distributing those samples.
Yeah.
Like, why are they working? Why?
Yeah.
Because
It's
exactly, it breaks my heart, man. Like, like, I can't just go around and give money to each and everyone. I posted one of the reel itself, like, don't go to a food bank, like, ask me money. I think so many people reached out to me and I have given, like, whatever was in my zone itself, I've given out. I think I'm not gonna boast about it, but I think I've
mm,
given out a couple of $1,000.
yeah.
I'll tell you that. Like, it was $100 here, 150 here, 150 there. And it feels good. Like, again, like, I know, as I said, I'm a firm believer in karma. Help them out some way or the other. The god will help me. Like, that's it. 7 years I haven't had any bad luck. Like, touch wood to that. And the same thing is going to happen, like, eventually, further too. Like, so I just don't want to stop. I just want people to have common sense and to respect this country as more of a foreign land Once you become permanent, once you get your passport in hand, like, and you say, like, you are a proud Canadian or you're a proud American, go ahead and create the chaos. But as soon as they should do it, we should cancel their passport. That's it. Like, have
That's
more
funny.
reason to, like, reduce that stuff. So yeah, go back home. So, but I think it's like high times that Canadians specifically who've been bred in this atmosphere, in this culture, and who treats this country, because I cannot say anything wrong about this country. This country has given me everything and anything. So if I don't get one thing, I cannot go around saying bad stuff about this country, because this has bought me what I wanted. If I wouldn't have got a PR, I would have just got up, packed my bags, and moved ahead to a different country. I wouldn't have stayed here legally. That's not my zone. Like, I do not love something that crazily that I'm going to create a destruction for myself. So if no
Right.
records, people who are already here, they know that nothing can happen for them. It's easy peasy. Just like, go home, pack your bags. There are other countries, there are other G7 nations. Go ahead, try your luck over there. Try your
Yeah.
tier two countries, but don't insult a nation that has given you each and everything for how you wanted and how you desired. That's all.
Well, with all the 51st state and governor talk and all that stuff that's been going on, it's really made me think about the privilege that it is to live here, because I've spent years in the States.
I
Um
see.
I've been all over the place. I've been to China. I've been all over the place. Haven't been to India yet. But I've been to a lot of places. And then when all this started, and here's the thing, even if he's just trolling, it's still a big conversation to just say
It
that,
is.
right? And you got to think
It
about it
is.
and say, and it's really made me go, man, I got sick January 2024, like this close to death, and took me a year to recover. And I was talking to a friend who's a doctor, and I said, if I'd gone through the same thing in the States, how much would that have cost me? And he's like, at least $1 million.
And easy.
A
Yeah,
million dollars. I don't have $1 million to just
that's
go
true.
like that with, and so that makes me think of the privilege of being here, and the fact that we have 40 million people in a landmass that's bigger than the US. It's just like, what? It's so crazy to think of the abundance we have, and I think sometimes we as Canadians and people that have been here for a while forget what a privilege it is to
It
have
is.
call this place
Exactly.
home. It's
100, it's beautiful. And
yeah.
so many times, like, I had fight with like a lot of other communities saying that Canadians are lazy, they don't want to do anything, so they blame it on immigrants. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Lazy? I have never seen one. Like, these kids start working when they are 13, 14. They are still working. They're trying to support a family. And you're calling them crazy? Like, they get so much of nightmares. They get so many mental stress, like, diseases and everything. But still, they show up to work itself. That shows a lot of commitment. You, on the other hand, if you get fever tomorrow just because it was so chilly outside, you're not going to get up for another 3, 4 days and you're going to ask for, like, hey, can I just skip my work for like 4, 5 days or so because I'm not feeling well? These kids will show up. Like,
Yeah.
there's a term itself, like there's a funny meme page on from US itself. It's like, be a man, die at work. Like, it's just that. But I don't want to do that, right? Because again, if
Yeah.
someone tells me how lazy they are, it shows what kind of mindset they are carrying. Okay.
Well,
Same thing. Like,
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you talk about the walnut and the peanut. I believe anybody has a peanut brain that subscribes to generalizations like that.
that's true.
Like
That's so true.
I know plenty of lazy Canadians, but I know way more hardworking Canadians. I
Exactly.
mean, people that I've hired some people from India who I went, wow, you guys are great workers, and I hired
That's
a
true.
couple who I mean, I was like, wait, what? I don't understand. Why aren't you like him? Like, I don't. He works as that. I swear that he works in his sleep, and you won't even work at peak hours. Like, what's going on here?
See,
So
exactly.
that's how I look at those things. Whenever anybody says anything general to me, like, oh, Canadians are lazy or immigrants are lazy, I'm like, you're lazy because you latch your brain onto something that is so stupid and so without even a moment of thought. you have to be the lazy one, you know?
That's
Um,
true. And journalizing everyone in the same bracket just because you have not seen them working is shows a completely different picture. And I can say I met some great Indians over here. I've met some great Americans over here, Ukrainians, and same from the other nationalities itself. Same Canadians, the people that I can trust on, they have always had my back, and again, as I'm saying, you said like you haven't been to India. Go to India, you'll see the hospitality that we people actually give you. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I'm telling you right now. Okay, we are just a bit dirty. I will give you that. We are
I've
because
heard
we are
that.
such,
Yeah.
we are billions of people itself. So having that common touch is like out of our control. But food is amazing, hospitality is amazing. You're gonna make such good friends. We never judge anyone. We are so respectful to each and everything. Now, the main question comes from when we are like that over there, what happens to us when we come over here? Why we start generalizing people? Why we start figuring out or classifying people according to those things itself? So many TikTok lives, they are like, oh, Ukrainians also come as refugees itself. No one's talking about how much money they are getting. Well, they're not getting any money. They just got a work permit.
Yeah.
They are not getting money. They are also striving hard to get a job. And the best thing is I've hired so many people because I used to work at a restaurant. So I can tell you this one story. It's just going to be super short. So 2020
Mhm.
we shot. I was working at Scatterbush downtown Toronto. So I had to let go a lot of people itself because we were closing and we were just out on a takeouts itself. 2021 when we opened, all these people came back. They were waiting for a whole year to come back and work for me. So I
Wow.
had a workforce of about like 67 people, front of the house and back of the house combined. I was leaving that division in 2022, and all the 67 people quit after me on the same day.
Wow.
Same day. I got a notification on our WhatsApp, left, 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 left. And the owner calls me up and he freaks out. He's like, Prateek, if you are gone, I'm going to lose business because I cannot hire 67 people in a week. So you
Yeah.
have to come back. So I requested these people. They stayed there till the time they could fill up or they can fill these positions up. As soon as they did, they left. They still called me up to ask me, where am I working? Am I working at a restaurant itself? And all of these are like kids. They were like 18, 19 years old who used to love. So, the respect that you give them is the respect that you're going to receive from them. And this is a very big thing for me because I never thought, who am I for them? I'm just like
Yeah.
a person, who worked with them, but showing so much of respect and showing so much of love and value towards me, they have a special place in my heart. And I know every one of them, they are just like someone is in Ottawa, someone is in Toronto, Scarborough, Pickering, Ajax, they're all working. They still remember me. They're like, once you open up a restaurant, let us know, we'll come and work for you. Big thing. So it's all about the give and a take policy. You gotta show what you are, how useful you are to these people and the people around you, and you're gonna get what you need. That's all. That's the
Right.
whole thing. Plus,
I think that's a great.
policy's always been a part. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a great place to leave it on. So just to sum up for everybody, we've talked about a better immigration system from the standpoint of government, from the standpoint of the people coming over. We've talked about how you could do better when you are coming over as a immigrant to Canada. And oh, you know what? I have one more question for you actually before I let you go.
Yeah.
Um, Here's how we could do something better for Canadians. Explain Diwali to Canadians, please.
Okay. So, just in a simple layman language, Diwali has been a festival where the good actually ruled over the bad. So, there is a mythology back home that Lord Rama, when he was in the forest itself, his wife got kidnapped by one of the biggest priests in the world that every god was afraid of. So when he actually kidnapped her, he did not rape her, but he kept her in a very safe spot because he was very much intrigued by her presence. Now, when the Lord Rama was actually going forward and trying to get his wife and kill this priest itself, all the gods told the priest that he's gonna lose. But he had so much of ego, he had so much of power trip that he said, I cannot lose to a common man because he's a common god. So when the war actually started, All the gods sided up with Lord Rama and they left the priest away. And at the end, the priest was killed by Lord Rama by a simple bow and arrow. So that is the only reason they say, like, no matter how much of a bad you do, at the end, the good stuff is always going to overtake you. And that's why we celebrate Diwali. That means, like, when the Lord Rama was coming back to his hometown, his kingdom, which is Ayodhya, they started up burning like the diyas or the candles, that's what we call, for 14 days. They never let the oil run out on those. So for 14 days continuous, those lights were burning because it was a auspicious event, like, that the Lord Rama has come back, defeating the biggest priest in the world. So that's how we celebrate Diwali. Like, the stuff that we do is gonna overtake and overcome from the bad stuff, and we're gonna come out as a pure soul.
Okay. That's the best explanation I've heard for it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so thank you. So there you go, guys. Now the episode of Better is complete because now you understand what's even being celebrated. Now, those of you that are celebrating Diwali, if you could just tie it up around 11 p.m. or find a farm to go do it on, that would be fantastic. All right, so that is the episode of Better that I have for you about immigration and how we can make immigration better. Hope you really like the episode. As you guys have probably come to learn, Better has evolved. It's evolved from personal responsibility and personal traits that can help make the world a better place. And it has become a podcast about better in general, just what makes the world better to be in, right? When I did, and I've had, because I record these in bunches. And in the last bunch, I did my episode called Girl in the Dumpster, where I had Eva LaRue, a fantastic actress who contributed to that episode. But I did that episode and I talked about, if you haven't watched it yet or listened to it, go check it out. It's called Girl in a Dumpster, but I'll give you the high level synopsis. Basically, I worked in the bar business. I found a girl in the dumpster who had been sexually assaulted and abused by men, and the story that came as a result of that. It was the hardest episode I ever had to record. And it resonated with a lot of people because maybe people haven't been through these extreme circumstances, but everybody at some point feels like that girl in the dumpster. Maybe not as extreme, but at a low point in life where life is just beating the crap out of you and you just don't understand how to move forward, but you have to. That is better. That's all better is. When you're confronted by these things, whether, like in this episode, we're talking about immigration. So whether you're confronted with a community that you're coming into, and how do you do better by that community and make sure that you don't, infringe on the society around you, or whether you are a Canadian who sees a newcomer coming into your neighborhood, and by walking over and saying, "Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the neighborhood," and introducing, almost educating, but in a soft way, here's how we do things around here. You can make your life and their life better. Better is a choice. Better is doing nothing and staying the same, or doing something and elevating that situation. So a lot of you, probably the most I've ever gotten messages from people about Girl in the Dumpster, that episode. What I want to say to everybody about that episode and all episodes of Better and everything we've talked about here today is that better will always be the right choice. It's never the wrong choice. So if you're in a situation and you're wondering, did I play that out right? That's your cue right there, right here, to say that's yourself saying, no, you didn't. That's yourself assessing and saying, maybe I could have done it differently. Listen to that and move in that direction. Okay. And if you're wondering, if you're like, was that bad? Ask people around you, people that you know. I have 4 or 5 people in my life who I can say are really naturally good people. And sometimes I bring stuff to them and they're like, I don't know about that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it caused me to reassess. But in general, if you do something and you ask yourself, oh man, did I do right by that situation? Something is wrong. Something doesn't feel right. That's you. That's your brain telling you to do better. And if you follow in that direction, people wonder why some people have abundance and some people don't. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, but I firmly believe that a lot of people that have abundance, whether that be abundance of happiness, abundance of success, abundance, whatever that looks like, it's because they listened in that moment and they didn't take the easy way out. They did the work to be better. So that's just what I wanted to say to you guys before this episode goes. I apologize for my cough. I'm doing a little better than I was last week, but I caught a cold because I went to Orlando, went to Disney World, and I was around a bunch of sick people, including Shauna's son, Sterling. Thanks, Sterling, who was sick. So that's why I got the tickle in my throat. Future episodes, I will be good. No, it's not my thing from January coming back, so you don't got to message me and say you're concerned. I'm fine. I will just do a little bit better in terms of my health on the next episode. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any insights on this, you can go here. I'm going to actually quickly, I'm going to pull up our guest's TikTok, and I'm going to tell it to you. Okay, so it's tiktok.com/at PrateekUni. Go follow him, and you'll see he's got a lot of interesting posts here. And you may not realize it because he's wearing a hat the whole time, but dude's bald. You look good bald, man. All right, that's it. Betterpodcast.live. That is our website. Go check it out. Everything's there. Later. Thanks for checking out Better. If you got to the end, it must mean you liked the episode, right? So how about 5 stars? Maybe a sub, maybe a share. Great universal comment points. And good luck on your better journey.